Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome. Welcome to The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. I am Dr. Enolia, and I am the host of The Infinite Way, and I would like to introduce you to our guest, Tom Shaw. Tom Shaw is Director of Operations for Over to the Youth, a charity dedicated to preparing youth to navigate the world we live in. Having experienced firsthand the dehumanizing nature of current Western societal constructs, Tom facilitates youth spaces and mentoring opportunities to help youth to step into being the most authentic versions of themselves. He is a poet, a writer, crafting language and the written word to help rekindle our connection to source and find clarity in our lives. Welcome, Tom.
Welcome, welcome from me. Yeah, thank you for. I just see right. I feel welcomed already. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's
Pleasure to
such a
be
pleasure to have you on here. We've been trying to connect and trying to connect,
Yes.
and I know
Yeah.
it's been a little bit off, but
Yeah.
we're here. We're here, and that's all
Yeah.
that
We
counts.
we
Yeah,
crossed a few countries in the process, and we've both we've made it.
exactly, exactly. So you're residing in the UK right now, or Amsterdam? Where
I'm
are you?
actually in Amsterdam at the moment, seeing a
Okay.
friend here. Going back
Okay.
to the UK for Christmas on Monday. So,
Okay, excellent, excellent. Enjoying the family and everything, correct?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tom, before we jump into your work, I would love our audience to learn a little bit about you. Take us on the journey of what inspired the passion that you have with working with the youth.
Mm. Yeah, so there's a lot of different places that story can start, really. Um, I look back at I look back at my own time growing up and how much value I got from a lot of the opportunities outside of school that I had to where I was held as a youth and held in a space that allowed me to develop and nurture fully. A lot of that was in the scouting movement for me. And
Oh,
I even at a young age, after I'd finished Scouts, I knew that I wanted to be a young leader there and help provide some of the opportunities I had there to more youth. So I had this taste for it very early on. Um, Although I couldn't necessarily put it into words exactly why I felt it, I just had a calling there. I knew that this is maybe there's something here for me. And then as I continued on, I sort of parked it in the background as I went off to university. And my initial plan was to study dentistry. I
mhm,
thought that was a route for me to make meaningful impacts in people's lives and to as a way to contribute to the world. And my studies coincided with a lovely thing called COVID, which as a through a long journey there, I discovered how a lot of what's set up in society, which is supposed to help people, especially around health, doesn't do that at all. And I found myself increasingly feeling unable to not only provide adequate care in that vehicle, but to actually get to the root source of problems that people were facing in their lives. And
mhm,
I struggled with that. I struggled with a crisis of meaning and not knowing what to do. I was depressed, I was suicidal, and in that nexus of that tension, I didn't really have the support structures around me that I needed to work through those problems in a healthy way and to address how it is that I find clarity and move forward. And so over to the youth came about into my life as I was considering finishing up my studies early. And it came my way through Uvius Trozzi, the founder of Over to the Youth. I was listening in online to the first Better Way conference over in Bath, where he presented his ideas, and it rekindled that spark for me of the youth work and everything I'd done in the past. And again, that calling arose in me to say, there's something here for me to address. And so I got in touch, managed to find a contact for him, fired off an email, and we've been connected ever since. We're both of us realizing that there's a need for spaces for youth to really thrive in and to experience effective mentorship and effective opportunity for inquiry within themselves to understand how to move through the world that just isn't being provided anywhere else. And so over the past few years, we've been experimenting with the best ways we can do that. Um, and can we deliver that through online spaces? How much do we do in person? Experimenting with all of these things to try and find what the most effective balance is. And we think we've got something. And that's so we're just continuing that now. And that's the journey that leads me to this conversation. And I look back on it and I think this is something I could never have predicted. And I love that. I
Exactly.
love that I couldn't have predicted it.
So before we keep forward into your work, I also want to, like, we tend to gloss over and we say that there was a calling, but
Mm,
sometimes in life there is a precipice that each of us reaches. There is that profound something that makes us take that leap forward, and it's just like a turning point in our understanding, grasping that there's something higher, that there's something more than what we ever thought of or thought to discover. What was that for you?
there was, I can certainly talk about the one at university where I had, what was it? It was so I remember during the day I'd been uh, made to give fluoride to a little kid who I know who didn't need it. Um, and having spent a lot of time looking through the literature outside of that, I was pretty confident that what we were being taught in dental school around fluoride and it's fully safe and effective, no problems, there was a narrative that didn't quite add up. And yet I still found myself unable to say no to the demands of the supervisors to say, this is what you're going to do now. And the tension of that decision completely destroyed me inside. And that night, I tried to take my own life and failed. And it was on the return from that that I realized that this is no way to live. There's something there must be another path here for me. This clearly isn't the way forward. That was the real precipice for me and what sparked my exploration into say, okay, well, how else can I move through this world? And that still, and in terms of what set the direction then going forward, that's when a lot of previous experiences came up for me when I could connect the dots and realize, oh, hang on, I've done lots of little bits in the past that maybe I've not given the attention that they that I'm now being called to give to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I know that those moments have a impact such that we see ourselves in others, which that's the tie. That's it. Now you just
yes.
shared what it is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
gives
yeah.
you that driven path to help other youth drive. Because a lot of times we see ourselves, our traumas, our point of where we had that turn of events in our lives in others, and we're like, you don't have to go there, I can help you pick yourself
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
I've been there, and I know. And I'll just share with you, like, when I was 12 years old, I remember being out with a group in day camp, and we were at Jones Beach in New York, and we were jumping over waves, right? And the waves were way over my head, but you know how water is buoyant, salt water is buoyant.
Mhm.
So no problem. We were holding hands. I had this false sense of safety, and then I had to use the bathroom. So I told my friend, I'm going to use the bathroom. And not thinking in that 12-year-old child, I turned my back on the wave. And I
Mm,
just started making my way back to the water, and an unusually large wave came over and swallowed me up. And then when I went to try to find my footing and get air, another wave was over my head. And then when I went to, like I have enough air, I can find my footing, another wave was over my head. And then it came. It came that conversation to God. Is this it? Am I done? I can feel you pulling me further and further and further out into the ocean. This is it. I'm done. Okay, God, if that's what you say. And then all of a sudden, I felt ground underneath me, and it had washed me ashore instead of pulling me out deep. But I surely thought it was over.
mm,
And then the thing about it is, nobody saw. Nobody saw that I had almost drowned. So
mm.
there I am, coughing, reacting, and everything else, gasping for air, got air. And then a couple of my friends walked by like 5 minutes later, and it's like, oh, you went already? I'll be back. It's my turn. And they didn't even know. And so, two things happened for me at that time. I had a choice of how I picked myself up. Do I embrace fear and stay rattled in my almost dying moment? Or do I pick myself up, and do I even go back in the water? That was the number two decision. Or do I engage fear that way? How do I move forward? And nobody would believe this, but because nobody saw me and nobody reacted, do you know, an hour later, I went back in the water and started playing. And what it did is it taught me a mutual respect for what I have, for life, for the water, and my relationship with water. And now I have a relationship with water. And I was able to, with great respect to this day, I move into water, but water talks to me. When she says, I don't want you in, I don't go in.
Mm.
And so a lot of times people don't understand that when we reach these precipices, the foundation of something really higher than ourselves takes root to move us forward and to navigate to where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, and you spoke beautifully to what I see as the dance there between us and having times where we have to make the choices of how this narrative that we're in is going to progress forward, and then the situations that come our way in response to that. It's this
Yeah.
lovely, yeah, I see this lovely backwards and forwards dance there as we move through the world. That is what we experience. And yeah, that story that you told there shows a really strong element of that to me. And I also love the you spoke there to engaging fear, and how you engage to it. It's not a denial of the experience to say, yes, this fear is there. What do I do with it? How do I keep it in sight so I know it? KNOW fear instead of no fear. I love it. I love how you address that in that story, and yeah, that speaks to some of how I think about dealing with youth, because in creating these spaces, there needs to be an exploration of what it is they're feeling and experiencing. That a denial of fear, saying you can't have that fear, that doesn't help. It's
Yes.
what's better, what I found to be better is the exploration to say, okay, what is that fear for you? And what is the relationship you have to it now? And then choosing, well, can the relationship be different? It's that exploration rather
Take
than
us through an
time.
iteration of this. Take us through an iteration of meeting with youth and exploring and getting them to engage with you in order to hold that space to show them another way.
Mm. So a lot of it is contextual, but there certainly are elements that are common between a lot of it. A lot of what we do with the spaces with Over to the Youth is, especially the weekly online gatherings we have for for members wherever they are to check in, with how they're doing, is opening with a check-in, which is a system for every single youth who's come to the space today to share what's absolutely alive for them, what's really kicking, and having, and normally we'll have one, myself or another facilitator or leader, kick off to with something that's really alive and causing a lot of tension and distress for them, to really set the depth and the tone of the space to say it's safe to go wherever you need to with your exploration today, whatever fears are on your mind, whatever you're struggling with, that's welcome in this space. And it gives an opportunity for everyone in the space to do that. And so immediately I find it's an instant realization that, oh, I'm going to be seen and heard in this space, and that exploration is going to be taken seriously and not denied. That's for
Yeah.
me, everything opens out from there. It is the welcoming. It's to say you are welcome here, whatever you're dealing with, and we're here to hold you in that. So, and a lot of it comes from that. It, Youth will bring something into the space, whatever difficulties they're going through, where they're struggling to find meaning, if they're in a work or study situation that's not working for them and is destroying them emotionally, morally, spiritually, whatever. And it's opening, and then it's just questions to continue the exploration. There's never a something so we're recording this on a Friday. Something we're doing tomorrow is on the 30th is a big workshop both for youth and for prospective mentors all around advice giving and why most cases it doesn't really work because
Uh-huh.
even when I think, oh, I want advice from you on how to do this, really I want to be able to find that solution for myself. And the only solution that's right for us lives within. It's called
Nice.
insight for a reason. We look
Beautiful.
inwards. So those in those situations where that exploration has begun with youth, trying to project ideas and visions of what they could be from someone else, that's not what they need. So instead, I find just questions to open up that exploration of, let's say there was a pattern in or certain word choices or their tone changed in how they were describing something else. Maybe it's just saying, how do you feel about that? Can you talk to me a bit more about that? There are places for introducing perspectives that maybe someone didn't have before. It's generally better there's once we've had a discussion of, well, what is it you do know? What is it you felt at the moment? Where is it you're stuck? And then working from there. But we can't know that until we've had the full conversation, and trying to project ideas, especially onto young people in that space. Just that's not a recipe for success for me. It doesn't work when people do it to me, and I don't do it to other people, or at least I try not to.
And I understand the traditional role of the mentor, but I'm
Mm,
I'm going to go there with you, which is the fact that like I've worked with youth and I work with youth. And what I found is that the youth of today is different from the youth of yesterday. All
yes.
right. And so the unwritten rule is that, or the unwritten words that we don't talk about, is that the youth are coming in gifted. They're coming in with intuition. They're coming in with a knowing. They're coming in with telepathy. They're really coming in with gifts. And
Yes.
what's happening is that the parents can't fathom them not conforming to the norm.
Mhm.
And sometimes some of the traumas that the youth are experiencing is because that the parents can't freaking cope
Yeah.
with the fact that they're gifted.
Yes.
And like I remember being in Nepal, I remember being in India. Like I talk to the youth all over the world. And one of the things I like to share is that you are the gift. You are the gift, and everything that you do and are capable of is of value. How do you embrace when you can identify that it's because the child is gifted that they're experiencing the trauma that they are? Is there a different way of handling that? Or is it that you're seeing so many youth gifted that that can be an open share? Like, how is that dynamic happening?
I think it's so from what I've experienced, it seems like there are so many youth where that is inherent. It just requires the tools and the space to open it up and to have that be seen and recognized. I suspect that a lot of why there are all these traumas, well, you touched on it, the parents don't know necessarily how to deal with it. They've not got the tools they need for that explanation and there's so many reasons for that. Um, and that's not always their fault. That is, it doesn't change the circumstance of the situation. But as you were saying, with your story with the waves and nearly drowning there, we we've still been dealt those cards. There's always a route out. There's always a way to transmute whatever those experiences are into something else that allows us to bring out whatever gifts are within us and within me and within the youth I work in. It's that pathway is there to everyone. And there are skills and tools and little things that can help in that route. But,
Okay.
but ultimately it's that it has to be that recognition that we are all the gifts. I think you put it really beautifully there. And and I do think people are recognizing that more and more. I think we are getting there. It's it's going to take exactly as long as it needs. Um,
Yeah.
and
Do you ever deal with parents? Do you ever have to sit a parent down and just say, listen, your child is gifted, and assist them to shift the situation, or that you just don't,
we
that's
don't
where
we
you at?
don't really tend to work with the parents. No, it's with the 18 to 25 bracket that we've got, they are adults in a way.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's absolutely a space for them to they can have the full agency in those spaces to
Okay.
set the direction for themselves.
Yeah.
We are we are introducing a 13 to 17 program in the coming year as well. We've not quite decided what the relation with parents is going to be there. Um, I, I mean, I think back to some of my own experiences as growing up and how I mentioned it at the start, some of my, I guess, biggest experiential moments in learning that set me up came from scouts in a situation where I didn't have parents around me and I was in a different environment. And I suspect that simply having a separate construct outside of that system that where both systems still respect each other and the time they take in different and the roles that they provide, I think there is something just inherently in that that can be valuable, provided the spaces are set up in a way that's conducive to personal development. It's
Okay.
and to that exploration of self. Yeah, I think those, yeah, we don't really do that work with parents. We can communicate with parents if they think that if their children might benefit from those spaces. Um, it's not it's not really within we've not needed to go to the parents really in a lot of what
Excellent.
we've done. Yeah.
Excellent. Because we deal with so many limited belief systems, which is part of the problem of why we are where we are, why we experience sometimes the traumas that we do, is that limited beliefs. And, there are no limits. There's where we just establish our boundaries to basically say, this is how far I choose to
Yeah.
think, versus lifting those boundaries and saying, okay,
Mhm.
I can expand it. And here's the reason why. And here's the situation that really dictates that I need to
Yeah.
expand it. So, I think that that would be a great segue into talking about how the failure of modern education systems prepare youth for life. Because if you really think about how the education system is, the education, okay, I'm going there. I'm sorry.
Go for
I
it. Go for
have,
it.
okay. They're programming.
hmm
They're programming to basically say, this is what we want from you. This is how you have to think. This is how you're going to conform into modern society. Here's what we want you to do. And Gen Z, Gen X, everything after the baby boomers started challenging that. And it's not working for them.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go to your school, graduate, and then work for a company for 40 years of our lives, get old, and say thank you to the company, have children in the middle of that, and hold a routine. We're not going to dress the same. We want our social media while we're in work. We're not going to be loyal to anybody who to work for 40 years. You're insane if you think I'm going to stay here for 40 years. You know, I want to be an artist. I'm a guy and I want to wear my dress. I'm a girl and I want to wear whatever. Culturally, my hair is going to be the way I want. And if I want purple or red or whatever in it, I mean, all the lines are just like dropping. And yet our education system is still trying to impose this regiment of how we're going to learn and what we're going to be and what we have to look like and what we have to do. Comment on that for me.
Yeah, I certainly see some of what youth are trying to do as expressions of, whether consciously or subconsciously, against that rigorous system of someone else's projection onto them. And the backlash is, no, I'm gonna, double down on how much I express myself. And in a way, I also see it as synergistic with what you were saying about the parents not necessarily having the tools to cope with that. The education system and those top-down societal systems are still trying to cling on to the old model because they don't have the tools, or the the designers of those systems don't have the faith within themselves to let whatever's new emerge organically. It's I see it as the same thing, just manifesting in different ways and at different levels in society. And it's it's interesting because it seems everyone I meet from all walks of life, all on some level, recognize that how we teach children and young people isn't working. And
Yes.
but there doesn't seem to necessarily, no one seems to necessarily have an answer as to how, or if they do, they don't feel empowered to take it on. And that's part of what I want to see happen with Over to the Youth, is for youth to find that sense of empowerment within themselves to say, okay, well, I've got an idea on how things can change. Here's, a space where you can learn how to develop that and bring out that most authentic version of yourself to actualize those changes in the world. And by extension, that will have a ripple effect to the communities they already have around them, the communities they go on to form, the people they interact with. It's We know we'll never reach every single young person in the world ever. That's
Yes.
not a goal. We'll reach exactly the people we need to and hold them exactly how they need to be held. And that's that I believe in itself. Well, by definition, young people are the future. The more people that have those skills and that have that ability within themselves to to trust themselves and to go forth in the world with that trust, that will naturally have a ripple effect for societies to come and redress that balance.
Well, I love a couple of things that you've said already. So, one of the things you just shared in your story is that you said we get youth to trust themselves. The second thing that I love is that no advice, you get them to focus inward. And I remember my son's coming up, and basically, my son was at this big precipice, my youngest one, and he's like, okay, I'm trying to make a decision. What do you think, mom? And I'm like, this is your life. So what I encouraged him to do is I showed him how to do a meditation. And in doing a meditation, I told him to go into the meditation asking the question. And then
Mm.
when you come out of that meditation, if you trust yourself, you will get the answer. You come out of it with the answer. You have to decide this because I could tell you what to do, but then you'll resent it down the road if that's really not what you wanted to do.
Hmm.
So we went through the iterations. He came out with his answer and he did what he wanted to do. And
Hmm.
I just think it was a better way. What are some of the things that we can teach our youth to thrive? Like to me, that was one of the ways, which was basically go inward and answer the question.
Hmm.
You know, trust yourself. What are some of the other things that we need to share with you?
Yeah. I mean, the one you touched upon there is huge because that's going into intuition.
Yes.
And I don't think it's a coincidence that there's so much focus on mental illness or what goes on in the head. And in a way, I do think we spend a lot of time thinking about, oh, the chatter here is absolutely everything, and ignoring what's happening in the heart and the intuition that's held there, or a gut feeling. It's and remind and giving space to youth to say they can do that and to ask maybe how are you feeling instead of how are you thinking. Something as simple as that, it can be a doorway into changing how we approach changing, yeah, how any youth approach a subject or a difficulty they're going in, and just to change the frame and to really listen into their souls and what it's doing for them, and is it nourishing them, is it not, where does that nourishment come from, even if we can't put a academic or rational brain level construct to it. And
Hmm.
the meditation that you gave is that's quite a nice example. We have done some guided visualizations and meditations as a just as a route to open up that sort of exploration and to go in with an intention and to find an answer from within rather than without.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because everything in our world always has us go from inside to out and focus on
Hmm.
the outside, navigate
Yeah.
outside, everything outside. And, you know, as we know, our world is going through an awakening right now. And that awakening, when I deal with my clients for coaching, life coaching, when I deal with the youth, everything, it's like refocus and bring all of that inward, bring all of those everything out inward. See the beauty
Hmm.
within yourself, see the love
Hmm.
and the trust that you have within yourself. Understand that out there is the human world, but in here, inside here, that came first. You're having
Yeah.
your energy being with the human experience versus the human experience defining your energy being, and that reminder of the energy being within is the bright light that shines through the roles that we take on, like we put on our physical clothes, you
Hmm.
know, as what we have to do to navigate through this human experience. um there are many essentials that youth need to stand on as a foundation, and I love the work that you're doing that helps them find that foundation of what they're doing. Um, Talk to us about restoring and maintaining the sacred loop of generations, and how my generation, because here I am, I'm probably 2.5 times your age, all right? Maybe 3 times your age, and how those people who have that limited belief system can close the loop and relate with the generations and help our youth to be the best version of who they choose to be, you know, in the best way.
For me, a lot of it comes down to being curious wherever I can. And this is certainly something that has been mirrored in a lot of the conversations I've had with some of the most effective mentors I've known, where for them, the solution has been just to keep curious. Even if they're seen as a mentor, they see themselves as the student, and whoever it is they're working with is the teacher. When that happens across generational um, boundaries and different generational timelines, that's how the shared understanding happens because it's a two-way street. They're both this the younger person is going in as a as a student to life and to the experience that the mentor has, but the mentor is going in as a student to the experience and the life that the young person is having. So they're
Yeah.
both going in with the same intention, and that's where they meet each other. That's where the common ground is. That's where there is a loop and there is the transfer from one generation to another. Both both ways in a way. It's a loop. And with the progression of time that we experience, that continues being paid forward and forward and forward. And it is how it is the stories that are and the narratives we tell that get passed on through generations and generations. It's why we have religious traditions and spiritual traditions with so many stories of myths and legends. It is in those, there's vehicles for those and metaphors for that understanding. And we receive those and we explore within it what it means for us. And that's how it's carried forward. It's those stories are openings for the same explorations and some of the same themes and ideas and wisdom that many generations before us had. And it's, and they respect that what we need to do with it might not necessarily be what they needed to do with it.
Right,
But the
right,
exploration itself is still important. And so it's in all these vehicles and this, and in communication that we pass this on and we close the loop. It can be done in person, it can be done over longer periods of time. But the conversation needs to happen, and a conversation where everyone goes in curious to find out not only about what's around them, but what's within too. It's both.
right, right. So you're looking at that group from the 18 to 23. You understand what's going on. They're your peers. What is it that you look to in the way that you serve that younger group? That younger group, the potentiality of them coming in and working with you.
As in, what is it I hope I
I
can leave them with through their time?
Right, and what their issues are. And how are
Mm,
they different
okay.
from you? Because that is a different generation, and every generation is different. So
Yeah.
you can't look at it as like necessarily peer to peer, but you understand that they're still going through the iterations and possible traumas that you're going through,
Hmm.
but how they're motivated might be different.
Yeah.
Um, how they choose to navigate and how they choose to respond might be different. So what is it
Mm.
that you're looking to share with them, and what is it that you're anticipating might be some of the problems?
Mm. A We touched upon it a little bit earlier. A really common theme that I'm seeing in a lot of the youth that I'm meeting is that they inherently and sometimes even more outwardly know that those societal systems that are set up and those the kind of lifestyles that their parents and ancestors led just aren't going to work with them. A lot of youth are really, really conscious of that. And that's creating a lot of difficulties for them because they're struggling to find the opportunities or routes to navigate to what they know to be the most meaningful way they can show up in the world because they feel like there isn't a place for that in the world that they've been born into. So the solution as I see it there is to say, how can you create that? If it's not already there, how can I or you create that around us? So we have that avenue and it's there. What are the ways I can or what are the ways I can bring out the most authentic version of myself, even when I might not be confident that the world around me is ready to feel or experience it? And how can I trust that in that process, the next step on my journey can reveal itself to me where it may have been hidden otherwise? That's an inward exploration at its heart. And yeah, that's pretty much been a theme with everyone that's come through over to the youth is how do I, yeah, how do I journey out into this world that seems to still be lingering on to lingering on to its own past traumas when I'm ready to move forward into something else and I know that I'm something different. That's that's a huge part of what I see us working with as we move forward. And I think it's needed for all the reasons we discussed earlier. And honored to be able to be a part of that process for people and yeah, committed to doing the best job I can with that because it helped me.
Yeah.
And it is, and it does help me still, and it will continue to help me. And so, ways I can pay that forward to others to continue that for other generations to come in the loop. Wonderful.
Yeah. If you were to leave something with the youth today, what would that message be? They get to experience Tom Shaw and you get to leave them one thing. What would that be?
That's a really good question. I've not thought about it in that context before. Oh, it's
Take your time.
you.
Take your time. Because like for me, and I'll just share that whenever I talk to people, I like to leave them with something. And I leave them with dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt, which is that if you
Mm,
don't hold a vision for yourself and walk to that vision, then what will happen is that people will project onto you what they perceive you should be doing.
yes. Yeah.
And if they project what you should be doing, you're living their life. You're not living your own life. So hold your own dreams, hold your own vision, and make life a walk to the vision that you choose for yourself. Otherwise, you'll be living somebody else's life and you look up and you're in your 50s and your 60s and you've lived a life and you didn't even like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly want to get across a very similar sentiment to the people I meet. For me, it's the idea of you have the power, I have the power to choose my own, to choose the story of my life.
There
And
you
you do
go.
too. You do too.
I love that because it's important. It's important to leave them with that because when you encounter youth, they will remember you the rest of their lives because you came in at a pivotal time. And I'm just, sharing my experience, you know, with the
Mm,
fact that, here I go and I'm talking to someone and they may only encounter me an hour in their whole lifespan and I get to leave them with something. And for me, it's just like, okay, I got to make sure that they remember that they always have a choice, that they remember that this is their lives and that you might feel oppressed and you might be coming from under that oppressed situation because you're coming of age. And the fact that all you had to do is make it to coming of age and then you can shed those things and then you can do what you choose to do, because you're of age to do it. And now you can say no. You have to find it within yourself to say no and push back those constructs, but you can do it. You are capable. You've been given the privilege to do it. And it's so important to leave with, here's the light at the tunnel, and you can walk into that light because sometimes we don't realize even when we're gifted, we are the gift, right? So maybe all I do is draw and I doodle, but I'm phenomenal at it. And that drawing doodling becomes my whole livelihood because I'm good at it. But everybody
mm,
when I was coming up through my youth said, "Oh, that stupid stuff. What are you doing? You're lost in your thoughts again. You're doing that stupid stuff." But that's the gift. And to recognize every single thing that you do is a gift,
yes.
you know? So to get youth to recognize that every aspect of them is a gift and every aspect of what they're capable of doing, capable of thinking, capable of navigating through can be a gift, even in the survival of it.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely.
And so I'm rattling on and I'm like, yes, but
It's
I
perfect.
welcome your
I
comment back.
absolutely agree. Yeah, it's yeah, the idea of yeah, the gift is such a powerful one, especially because I know from myself I felt like a burden, which to me is the opposite of a gift. And that's a yeah, those are the two ends of the pendulum for me. And being able to realize that actually in my existence in itself, I bring change into the world. and that
Yeah.
I can channel incredible things through that and create opportunities and experiences and lovely memories for everyone I meet, and that that is a gift in itself, the ability to do that and experience it, and to plant the to put it metaphorically, to plant the seeds of trees that I may never climb, but that my grandchildren and their grandchildren may one day climb.
Well, there you have it. You just gave your words of wisdom. I know that we're coming up on an hour already. I can't believe how fast the time goes. But I just want you to know I really am honored. It is so important that your oration be there and that you lead as an example for other youth to be able to step up on a platform, speak out, share your heart, and just be you and just truly give that message of where your heart says. And I hope that you will motivate other youth to be able to do that, because people like me will always give you a platform to do it.
Yeah, and I feel very grateful that you've given me this opportunity to, yeah, talk about some of it, some of what we do and how I approach it and some of the story. And yeah, it's wonderful that I feel humbled every day that I get opportunities like this to do it and that I'm where I am. And it's that I show up as much as I can as a gift, and gifts come to me in return. It's the gift economy on a cosmic level, and it's wonderful to be a part of. So thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. Is there anything else you want to share before we close?
We, to be fair, we haven't. You did mention I was a poet. We haven't talked about the poetry.
Oh, I would
Would
love
you
to talk
like?
about your
Well, would you
poetry.
like me to close with a poem? Does that
I
work?
would love that. I would
We
absolutely love that.
can
And
do that.
before we
Let's
get to
do
your
it.
poem, just tell us a little bit about how you embrace poetry. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Apology declined. I was loving the exploration of everything else. It's not a not an issue for me at all. So yeah, the poetry came about for me in that nexus of my own discovery was how do I find clarity as I move forward? And for me, it was writing. That was the tool that spoke to me and to poetry. And
Uh-huh.
in realizing that the power of being able to wield words in such a way to create and to change the narrative, to change the story, and to convey the emotions required um, to express that between the lines and within the lines. I love the challenge of that, and it was enough of a challenge for me to get into writing it and to put my thoughts into such a vehicle that allowed me to transmute it. And so I continue writing. I now do I do a couple of workshops um, to combine some of my writing aspects with elements of self-inquiry. And I've done bits of work with that with the some of the youth we have as well. And
Okay.
that is my and I continue to write for myself. That's the reason first and foremost why I write is just to have clarity in my own space of my own approach, and it's how I I move through it. Quite literally, I move it through my hand, well, from the head through the heart into the hands onto a page as I write, and yeah, it's in the movement that things shift for me and things open up, and so I continue writing, and I love it, and I don't see myself ever stopping writing. So that's
That's
how the poetry
phenomenal.
came about.
Yeah. And we won't forget about the resonance of those words,
Yes,
frequencies of those words, and how
yes.
words can lift you to another dimension when eloquently used. So I'm so excited to learn more about your poetry. So yes, please do.
Yeah, we can close on a poem. This was one I put together for. I like to put my poems into books. I just like the idea of having something physical that I can hold. And I
Yeah.
like it when I do readings. I like it to be able to share with people. It's something outside of the digital realm that's a way of enjoying it. So
Yes.
this is one that when I put together my book, Kindling, this is where the title of the book came from this poem. And it's all about bringing people together and having the soul. emanate from that and being
Okay.
seen. So it feels like a fitting one to close on, given the conversation we've had today. And so it's called Lighting the Kindling. The thought of fire beckons. Let's gather sticks and bark that the forest gifts us and arrange them just right for a sacred ritual. With careful attention, with dareful ambition, the pyre can take its shape and a flame can cinder. The smell of smoke beckons, and amber in the core, like a pulsating heart, becomes a flickering light to which I give my mind. The haze of all my thoughts, the days of all that wroughts, replaced by swirling ash that clarifies instead. The sound of sparks beckons, receiving it gladly, knowing its healing force. In a caressing glow, I come to remember the primal side within, the chiral tides of kin, awash with those warm waves, immersed in energy. The feel of heat beckons. Synchronized, we begin, charging into rhythm. The blazing ring open, I dance in the limelight, playing a better game, chanting a better way. A hearth of heart and earth, annealing my old soul. The sight of fire beckons. Let's gather, fellow man, that nature has gifted. They'll arrange themselves right for this sacred ritual. With dareful attention, with careful ambition, the pyre gives up its shape, our inner flame cinders.
Oh, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. Thank you so, so much for sharing. And
Thank you
please
for giving me the opportunity.
share your book again, raise your book again, let people know where they can
Yeah.
buy your poetry.
Kindling,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Beautiful.
So if you head over to so the book is on tom-shaw.uk. I'm on Substack as well. There's links on the website to the Substack if that's the easiest way to find it. It's
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I'll make sure there's some links with you to go out with
Yes.
this. I think I already sent them actually, didn't I? There's over to the youth.
Yes, you did. You sent all of the links and everything,
Oh,
but
we're
tell
on it.
everyone
We're on
how
it.
they can reach you, how they can, because I will have the links in the description box along with your bio, and so
Mhm.
that they can reach out to you directly and check out your website and everything else. But tell people how they can reach you, how youth can reach you, and if
Mhm.
somebody's needing help or seeking help, how what you would be willing to engage. So please do share.
Yeah. Yeah. So. If you want to contact me personally, I've got a you can on tom-shaw.uk, there's a contact form, or you can email me, contact at tom-shaw.uk. It's all linked together. For over to the youth, if you're a young person and you have liked the sound of some of what it is we're offering and you want to get involved, over to theyouth.com. You'll see the join icon up at the top. Fill that out. Super easy. Yeah, that's that covers a lot of it, and there'll be the other links in the description as well. And if you're a mentor and if you want to learn more how to you effectively, or some of the things that we found work really best in allowing young people to do that insight for themselves and how to encourage that. Um, keep come over to theyouth.com, be following our socials. We are, as I mentioned, we've got it will have passed by the time this episode goes out, I imagine, but we are doing skills training workshops for mentors and looking for ways for mentors to get involved, um, and to hone their skills to um, allow the lights of the youth around them to come out as bright as possible. So, yeah,
Yeah.
many,
Excellent.
many opportunities. Oh,
Tom, thank you. Thank you for such a beautiful closing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the light that you are in this world and your contribution to the youth. It is such a joy and a pleasure to have met you, to have had this opportunity to speak with you. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't ever stop. We need you.
Thank you. Has been, and it is still a wonderful experience, and humbled that I'm able to do this with you today. It's wonderful. Thank you, Anolia.
Thank you. And so you have just heard another episode of The Infinite Way where spirituality meets humanity. If you like this episode, please press like and subscribe on that button. Share with somebody who needs to hear this story. And don't hesitate to get in contact with Tom Shaw and to check out his work. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care for now. Bye bye.